Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be going through my personal experience going through clinicals and how I felt my first time meeting a patient and what I did to overcome my anxiety and the things I used during my clinical process. So if you're interested in watching that, please stay tuned. To start off, the whole clinical process is very hard to get used to, especially if you have no medical experience like myself. So my first place where I started my clinical experience was at a regional hospital, and it was for acute care. We were on the telemetry floor. So a lot of patients were more elderly, which is what my program starts us off with, which is more elderly patients, the well elder patients. So just to help us get into the door of dealing with patients and communication and such sort. So one of the main things, of course, you're going to need in order to succeed in your clinical experience is a stethoscope. So the one I use is a Littmann Master 2 stethoscope, Master Classic 2. It's in all black with a black finish. It's not too long, pretty short. It doesn't have a bell. And so for the bell purpose, you just press a little harder down onto the patient, and that's how you use the bell function on this. For those of you that don't know how to put on a stethoscope, you want to put it away with the earbuds facing away from you, so it's like an arrow. Put it in. You're going to tap it to make sure it's not muffled. Not too hard, you don't want to blow your eardrums out. So yeah, so Littmann Stethoscope Master 2. Again, any stethoscope will work. I just wanted something that I'm going to use past nursing school into my career. So it's pretty much an investment, so this is what I used. I made the purchase like $120 on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description below. Again, you don't need to get something that expensive, just something that works well and is going to last you throughout the program and throughout your career if you wanted to. So definitely get a good stethoscope. Also, what I used is what you need to make sure you have is a lot of pockets. Because you're going to be carrying around little notepads to write down notes, write down information. There's a lot of lint flying everywhere from this jacket. You're going to have hand sanitizer, alcohol swabs, basically almost anything you're going to need throughout your day you're going to want on you at all times, so you're going to want a lot of pockets. Now my program gave us a limit how many pockets we could have on our scrub bottoms and our scrub tops. So I mean, I don't know why they put a limit on it, but I feel like more pockets the better. But whatever. So my pockets were limited on my uniform, so I went ahead and bought their jacket that they're allowing us to have. Again, when it comes to jackets and long sleeves, you have to go by the facility's policies. So if they don't allow you to have an undershirt, then you're not allowed to wear one unless you have tattoos. Then in that case you can, but if you don't have none, then they weren't allowing certain students to wear anything underneath. Jackets, same thing. If they didn't allow you to wear jackets, then you can't wear one. But the school says we can wear this one, but again, according to the agency policy. So we had to get the school's logo on here, just so they know like where we're from if we're wearing our jackets, so it's not covering, because when you're wearing the jacket it's going to cover the logo from the uniform, so you need to have your emblem on the outside as well. Now with this jacket I had a big pocket on the outside, one on the other side, a little one right here, and then I didn't find this out until a couple weeks in, but there's a secret pocket on the inside, which that's where I would keep my phone, just so it's not like visible and it's accessible if I needed it to look up a drug or something. I don't know how to pronounce the brand, Landau, Landau. It's in the size medium. We had to get in white. It's not necessary, but again, I love to have a lot of pockets, and this is the only way I was going to be able to have more pockets on me. So that's why I got that. And also, you're going to need a watch with something that displays the seconds. So when you're taking your vitals and you're doing your radial pulse or your brachial pulses, you're able to count them accordingly. I have a digital one. It's a G-Shock. Again, I was investing money in something that I wanted to last me a while, way past nursing school, so I spent the money on durable stuff, supplies. So again, you don't have the money right then and there. You don't have to just get something with the second signs that's going to be able to help you take your vital signs. So that's basically it for the supplies, I want to say. I did have a pulse oximeter. I don't know if it's in my bag. My school, they gave us a big skills bag, so we could pass all, like, it basically had everything we needed for our skills throughout the semester. So I basically would throw all my clinical stuff in here. It just made life so much easier. So I had a pulse ox, a portable one. I never really used it just because the facilities that I was at, they had them accessible. Except in the long-term care facility I went to, they weren't taking pulse oxes. They're just doing every other vital sign besides that. So basically, if you don't know how it works, you just turn it on, place it on your finger, and then it'll give you a reading. There's going to be a waypoint, which is telling you that it's getting a circulation, it's counting it. And then it'll tell you a percentage. So I'm at 97% and my beats per minute is 78. So basically normal, you want to be at 95 to 100 with your percent SpO2. And for your heart rate, you want to be 60 to 100 when resting. So this would have came in handy if the facility needed it. I mean, it's good to have on you because if you feel like your patient is not getting enough oxygen in the moment and they're having trouble breathing and you need to check it right then and there, it's good to have on you so you can go ahead, check their SpO2 and see if they're getting enough oxygen or if they're not. Okay, so we're all done with the supplies that you need for clinicals, which I use. Again, it could be different for everyone else. So now for the whole experience. So when I started my clinical, in my whole clinical group there's about 8 students, and luckily enough I had another student that went to Belle Glade with me, which is a very close friend of mine. So me and her were kind of sticking together and going through the whole process together, but she has some medical experience, so she was able to help me more than I was able to help her, so God bless her. But when we all started, you know, I was very nervous. I suffer with anxiety. So every time I do something new or I'm put into a situation that I don't know much about, I start to get really nervous, anxious, and I just want to run. But of course I can't run, so I had to take it head on. And my clinical professor, I heard a lot of bad things about her, but when I got to know her and meet her, she was amazing, taught me so much in such a little amount of time. I thank her for that because she set us a foundation that's going to take us through our whole nursing school and our whole nursing career. So anyways, so when I first met her, she was very hard. She was laying it down on us, and basically the whole time I'm thinking, I hope we don't have to meet a patient today. Like, I hope it's just like orientation and we just are able to survive our first clinical day. So pretty much we got our tour, did like a little scavenger hunt. We got to meet some fellow nurses that were working on the floor. Now when it came our second day, of course we were gonna finally meet some patients. So when she started to give us some patients that we were gonna be dealing with for the day, I was just praying that we were gonna get paired up with someone else. because I just feel like it's so much easier to go through something new or something hard when you have someone else that's going through the same thing with you. So I was just hoping we're gonna get paired up, and she did. She paired us up with people, and we basically got to choose. So I chose, of course, my friend, and it was a very fun experience. Putting our skills to work and actually doing it on a real person compared to a mannequin. It's a whole different experience. It was kind of scary, but we were doing basics at first. So it was pretty much like vital signs, bed baths, assisting with feeding. It was nothing major. So the bed bath, the first bed bath I did on someone, it was very strange. But at the end of the whole experience, I was grateful that I was doing what I was doing, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to be taken a bath by someone else. Like, let's be honest. Especially when you're in the hospital, you're there because you're sick and you're not able to care for yourself, and you need expert professional care to help you get better. So these people aren't wanting you to give them a bed bath. They need it. So when you have a nursing student giving you attention, you have their full undivided attention. All they're doing is caring for you. They're putting their skills to work, and they're making sure that you're okay. And if you need anything, they're going to run out and get it for you. So that's one of the good things about having a nursing student take care of you. So most of them were very grateful. They appreciated us. They told us to keep doing what we're doing and to keep pushing forward. Everyone loved our time. They loved having someone to vent to, talk to, because most of the time when we got there, some of them were newly admitted, but most of them have been there for a little while. So they just wanted to vent, and they wanted to release their stress, because when you're in I was gonna say hotel room, it's not. When you're in a hospital room, you're stuck in that room. Most of the time, you're on bed rest, or you're just not able to ambulate around. So, when you have someone to vent to, or you have someone to help you ambulate into the room and get you up to the restroom when you really need to go, it's amazing. So they're very grateful. The nervousness started to go away because I started to feel appreciated. I started to feel confident in what I was doing. And, because going from a mannequin and feeling, yeah, okay, I passed it on a mannequin, but how am I going to do it on a real human being? Like moving them, being careful with IV lines, or watching out for like broken legs when you're positioning a patient. Like, am I really going to be able to do it on my own, or am I always going to need help? So at first I did have the help, but eventually I had to get over that, and I had to push myself to be confident in me, because if you're not confident in yourself, it's going to show, and it's going to show to your patients. So if you're not confident and you're struggling, your patients are going to see that, they're going to feel that vibe. So they're not really going to want to deal with you, which is going to be upsetting, not only for you because you're not going to be able to learn, but it's going to upset your professor as well, because they're expecting you to be able to do these things because you're passing them in the skills lab. So if you're past them in skills lab, then you have to be able to perform them in real life, and if you're not being able to perform them in real life, then they're going to start to wonder, like, well, what's the situation that's going on? And I didn't want to do all that. So I made sure I knew what I was doing. I made sure I was being safe, which is the number one thing in nursing, is safety, and make sure the care is patient-centered. So everything you do is going to match your next patient, which is what I started to learn throughout the whole process. So one way that I gave a bed bath to one patient is not going to be the same way I'm going to give a bed bath to someone else, because they could have a wound on one side, or their IV may be somewhere else, or they may have a catheter. So the way you do vital signs and stuff like that is always going to differ according to the certain patient. So I value the clinical experience so much because it taught me how to communicate. It taught me patient-centered care. It taught me how to be safe and what to look for when, like, if a patient is going to be going into distress or something, or if they're really agitated, how to deal with that. So the nervousness, the anxiousness, it started to go off all by me believing in myself and having confidence in myself. And occasionally, if I didn't know something, I would ask my close friend, and most of the time she knew it. Or if we both didn't know it, we reached out to another student, or if we didn't feel comfortable with that, like their decision or their answer that they gave us, then we would go to our professor, and our professor was more than helpful because they want to be safe, they want to make sure you're doing it right. And because when you're working with a clinical professor, you're working under their nursing license, so everything you do is going to account for them. So they want to make sure you're doing it correctly. If something differed than the skill checklist, and like if it wasn't on the checklist, because the checklist is only really covering, it's trying to cover everything, but it's really not, because it's not giving you different scenarios, different type of patients. It's just giving you a foundation on how to do it. So if something would differ, then she would tell us, no, like if a patient's dealing with this, then you're going to do it this way. It's not on your checklist, but this is how you're going to deal with it with this patient. So it was good to have her there and see it and to basically help us through it. I did have some scares in my clinical experience, which kind of set me back on my confidence level. But when you're learning, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be situations where you're not going to feel as comfortable anymore, because there's going to be challenges. Every learning aspect always comes with a challenge. So there's a whole bunch of challenges. Definitely when reading patient charts, make sure you're getting the right information, because we would do simulation charts online. So we would have to get all the necessary information in our clinical days, which were only 2 days a week. And if you didn't get all the information you needed on your last clinical day, then you basically were going to fail your sim chart, because you weren't going to have all the information you needed. So that was a good learning aspect, because it taught us how to look for certain things in the patient's chart, what had more value and what meant more to like a nurse than everything else that was in the file. So that was great. It helped us with our charting. But yeah, so basically my anxiety I got over by being confident in myself, believing in myself, and confiding in like my peers, and communicating with patients. I was just trying to be super nice. Like, most of my jobs were customer service based, so I already knew how to deal with like frustrated people or how to communicate well. But of course, when you're talking to a patient, it's more therapeutic. So you want more of a open communication instead of closed-ended. So if you walk into the room and you're like, hello, whatever their name might be, hello, Mr. Johnson, and you don't really ask them a question like, hello, Mr. Johnson, how was your night? And you just say, hello, Mr. Johnson, good morning, then there's a whole difference, because you're not going to know how their night went. So you might be missing some important details. So you basically want open-ended questions. You want to keep them talking, because there might be some things that they're not telling the night nurse, or they're not telling anyone yet, because no one has really asked them the correct questions or cared to like ask more. So we learned a lot about therapeutic communication, which made me more comfortable on what I was doing and communicating. I had a really rude patient that was yelling at me and basically telling me to do things that weren't allowed. So basically in that situation, I was just like being very calm, telling him like the policies, and he still wasn't taking it. So, I just make sure I provided the care I needed to provide. I exited the room, make sure he didn't need nothing else. I exited the room, and I let my professor know that what was going on. And she basically told me to get a new patient, because it's a learning experience, and if I'm there to provide care, but I'm there to provide care to learn. So basically it's like I wouldn't be learning anything, because I'm just providing care. I'm not really doing the learning aspect, because the patient was allowing me to. So if you ever encounter a rude patient, just be very calm, talk to them. Don't really deny their request. Just tell them, well, I'm going to talk to your nurse and we'll see if we can get something resolved. Because you're not the actual nurse, you're just there to help the nurse. So I would just use the nurse as like a blame. I would just be like, oh, I'm going to talk to your nurse and see if we can get you so-and-so whatever they needed. And if that wouldn't work, I'll just be like, well, the hospital policy is this, but I'll go ahead and talk to someone for you and see if we can get something arranged, because I'm just a nursing student. Like, there's only so much I can do, but I'll try to resolve your situation. So I just try to talk around it, just so they can calm down a little bit, so then I can exit the room. Because you don't really want to make a scene and argue back with them, or deny their request, or tell them that they're wrong, because they're just going to get more rowdy, and they're in the hospital, they're already frustrated, they're stressed. And when you're dealing with elderly patients, some of them might have some cognition issues or be delirious. So you want to be careful with that. And you just want to speak calmly, make sure that you're basically making sure that they think that you care what they're saying, and not that you're just going to wipe it off and deny their request and be like, no, like, you can't get that. Just be like, I'm going to talk to your nurse, I'm going to talk to someone that, see if we can get something resolved, see if we can get you help for whatever they need or whatever they want. And then help them calm down, leave the room, and explain the situation either to the nurse or to your professor, just so everyone knows what's going on, and not that you're like, people are going to think like, oh my god, what's going on in that room, there's a nursing student, like, what is the nursing student doing? Because you want to keep a good reputation in every clinical setting that you go to, because you never know where you might need a place to work or if you might need like a recommendation or something, so you just never know. So just be good to the patients, to the staff, make sure you're reporting everything that needs to be reported. Have confidence in yourself, make sure you're being safe, make sure you're following orders correctly, make sure you're listening to your professor, make sure you're listening to other nurses. Now, this is one thing, now that I mentioned that, some nurses may ask you to do something that you're not allowed to do, because I don't know about other programs, but in my program, we were only allowed to do whatever skills we checked off in our skills lab. So even though it was a skill that we were learning, we couldn't do it in our clinical setting until we checked off in our skills lab and we were proficient in that skill. So if we weren't proficient in that skill and we didn't pass it, we weren't able to do it. So you might have some nurses that would be like, oh, do this for me. Well, I can't. And basically my professor was like, if they ask you to do something you can't, blame me. Just tell them my professor won't allow me to do that. Because some nurses, they want to abuse you in a sense because they know you're there to help. But there's only so much that we can do. And some of them don't understand that. They just feel like, oh my god, like, oh, you're not going to be a good nurse, you're being lazy, like, you don't want to learn. But our learning is in our school environment. That's where we learn our skills. We learn it on a mannequin first. We're not going to learn something on an actual patient and then something goes wrong. Now you have to stay in your scope, in your box, and the skills you completed. You don't want to step outside your box because now you're out of your scope of care, which you're not qualified to do yet. So don't be afraid to say no to a nurse and just blame talk to your professor and say, hey, this nurse wanted me to do this, like, I haven't done it yet and I just don't want to hurt anybody or do it wrong. So just explain. You always want to explain situations to your professor, and because they're going to be the ones who are going to have your back no matter what. And don't do anything you don't know how to do. Like, make sure you're only doing what you know for sure you know how to do. They say even if you pass the skill and you're not comfortable yet doing it on an actual person, tell that to your professor. Say, hey, can I have you with me while I'm doing it? Or can I like see you do it on an actual person, because I'm just not that comfortable yet and I think I need to see it done on an actual person first. And then just go like that. You always want to communicate. You just don't want to jump into something if you're not really comfortable. So that was my clinical experience. I just kept flourishing as a student nurse. I started to think more like I was a nurse, because that's how I built my confidence. I stopped thinking that I'm just a student nurse, like, what can I really do? I started thinking I am a nurse, like, these are the skills I can do, these are the skills I'm mastering, and I'm able to do them correctly on a patient and able to help a patient any way I can. So you're going to flourish a lot in your clinical setting. Don't take any little thing like a grain of salt. Make sure every little thing that you see, every little thing that you learn, you retain, because all this stuff is going to build your foundation for your nursing career. And your first semester is all the critical stuff that you want to retain. Now for me, like, I've heard a lot of things that my second semester is the hardest semester of the whole program, which I'm going to be starting in the fall. So I'm looking forward to that, but it's going to be med-surg. So I'm looking forward to that, but again, that's how I got over my first clinical experience. Just stay confident in yourself, believe in yourself, and you'll make it through. It may feel impossible, especially coming from having no medical experience, but if I can make it through, you can make it through, trust me. I was doubting myself so much, and I'm here today and I feel confident in what I'm able to do. So I know you can get there as well. So just believe in yourself. That's it. Faith can get you so far. Just believe and be confident and listen to your professors, listen to yourself, make sure you're being safe, and you'll make it through. Make sure you guys subscribe and like this video. Please put on the notifications. I'm going to be releasing a whole bunch of content now. I'm still trying to set up a taping room. I just got my lighting in. I'm trying to set up a little space so then I can release more content, because I was limited to basically sunlight when I was trying to record, which was limiting the timing on which I could record. So if I missed that timing, then I just couldn't record, which was a lot of times. So now that I have the lighting, I'm going to try to record more. I just have to create a little space for it. But please make sure you subscribe, like the video, comment down below any comments or any topics you would want me to go more in depth in regarding nursing, beauty, whatever. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you guys back. Bye.